Aviation, a symbol of how mankind keeps its word. Centuries ago, we looked up at the skies and saw birds. Back then, we wished to fly. Today, we look up at the skies and see both birds and planes. We see how our wish has been granted. While the skies are littered with these metal birds, along with the fact that they create 12% of our CO2 emissions, we humans are more connected. But the science and history behind these marvelous creations are fascinating. In this video, we'll be talking about the basics of aeronautical science, the components, and the history of planes. Let's start off with the components of an average plane. We'll be using a model of a Cessna 172, a small aircraft. Around 43,000 planes of this type have been produced by Cessna. First, let's take a look at the front of the plane. We have a propeller that drives the plane forward. The faster it spins, the faster the plane goes. Now, behind the propeller is the cockpit. The cockpit holds all the controls for the plane along with the seats for the people to sit in. The Cessna can hold 4 people. At the end of the plane's body, which is called a fuselage, is the vertical and horizontal stabilizers. Above the cockpit are the wings, which hold the ailerons and flaps. I'll explain later how all of these work. Now, below the planes are the wheels. We call it the landing gear. Bigger planes have landing gear that retract and detract. Now, onto the science behind them. Let's start with the 4 primary fundamentals of a plane. There is lift, weight, thrust, drag. Lift helps the plane go up into the air. Weight brings the plane down. Thrust helps the plane go forward, while drag helps the plane slow down. When taking off, you need lift and thrust. When landing, you need drag and weight. Too much of any of these would lead to a disaster. Now, let's talk about the reason why you need wings to fly. Usually, wings are streamlined. When the plane has thrust, the air coming in would go around the wings. Soon, the speed would be right, and the air would lift the wings up, causing the rest of the plane to go up. Now, let's get technical, starting with the stabilizers at the back of the Cessna. The horizontal stabilizer can help the plane tilt up, therefore gaining altitude, or tilt down, which could help lose altitude. The vertical stabilizer is primarily there to help stabilize the plane. It could also help with turning left or right. Now, moving down onto the wings, the ailerons are there to help the plane tilt to the left or right. This would also help the plane turn. If we were to apply the right amount of ailerons and right amount of vertical stabilizer, we could turn. Finally, flaps. This is a crucial part of a plane when it comes down to land. We proved earlier how thrust provides lift. If you have too little thrust, we don't have lift. The plane won't be able to fly and will become a 30,000 brick falling out of the sky. In order for more control, the pilot would deploy flaps at these low speeds. This would help us expand the wings, therefore providing more lift. During takeoff, the pilot might bring 50% of flaps to help the plane get off the ground. And during landing, the pilot might bring out 100% of the flaps to have more control on the plane over low speeds. The basic history behind the invention of the airplane is a fascinating one. Mankind continued to dream that they would take to the skies. Ever since 400 BC, we have tried over and over again. The first known powered flight of the airplane happened in 1902, when Orville Wright and Wilbur Wright launched their Wright Flyer. The Wright Flyer was also the basis of the biplane, and pretty much every single plane after that. In 1909, the French Army created the first Air Force. The same year also saw the creation of the St. Petersburg-Tampa Airboat Line, the first airline known. The next achievement in aviation happened on August 27, 1939, when the first airplane powered by the jet engine took flight. This was the Heinkel 178 built in Germany. Germany was also the home of the first mass-producing jet fighter, the Me-626. The dream of going faster than the speed of sound was achieved during 1949 when the Bell X-1 went over 1 Mach, which is the speed of sound. 1952 had the British de Havilland Comet take to the skies. This was the first jet airliner. However, this aircraft was quite flawed. The first successful jet airliner is the famous Boeing 707 of 1958. 10 years later, the Soviets Tupolev 144 took its first flight on December 31st, 1968. Then the British French Concorde took flight on March 2nd, 1969. Wait, hold on. These planes look familiar. I mean, it was during the Cold War era. Maybe someone stole the other designs. I don't know, but both of these planes were the first supersonic passenger planes. The Tupolev 144 was the failed version, while the Concorde was more successful. It would eclipse her older Russian sister in luxury and cost efficiency. However, the Tupolev 144 was much faster and could hold more people. Anyway, both of these were monumental achievements for aviation. But when Boeing unleashed her creation on February 9, 1969, the whole world forgot about these fast planes. The queen of the skies, the Boeing 747, took her first flight. She was the biggest commercial passenger plane to fly at the time. Going back to 1966, the world learned that the fastest military plane ever created by man, as of 2021. The SR-71 is capable of going 3 times the speed of sound. Now that's fast. Sadly, they retired these beauties during 1999, but it was fun while it lasted. Anyway, Boeing was the only real competition for commercial services. The orders were flooding until a new European corporation called Airbus came into the picture. They introduced many things to the game. Their A310 showed off their electronic cockpit. Their A380 rivaled the 747. Yet the history of flight continues. Boeing introduced their first fully computer-made plane, the 777. More efficient planes which could go more distance with less fuel were being introduced. The A350-900, released by Airbus in 2013, could go over 9,000 miles. The Boeing 777X-9, released on January 25, 2020, could go over 10,000 miles. The history of planes evolves. The future of aviation looks bright. Aviation brings the world closer together. A voyage across the Atlantic took around 6 to 14 weeks during the mid-19th century. Today, it takes around 8 hours. We have truly progressed. Soon, I would bet that going from London to New York would take around an hour or two. We might even have our own private jets. Or it might be the same as it is now. But innovation and the future of aviation will be soaring high. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please click that like button and subscribe to receive notifications. Also, thank you so much for 35 subscribers. We deeply appreciate the support. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll hope to see you next time.